Good afternoon. Welcome back to another Team News live stream. Friday deadline today, so we're going to jump pretty much straight into it. There's a lot of news, big news as well, as always, to go through. Neale, how you feeling today?
Stressed, very stressed.
That kind of day, isn't it?
Yeah. Not just for the work purposes, but as we are going to discuss in a second, one of my Liverpool players is now carrying a knock. So I'm wondering what to do with my own team.
Yeah, this deadline's pretty close. Tuesday's going to be even worse, but we'll get through today first, and then we'll worry about next week in a few days. Let's just talk about Liverpool. So there was a lot of worry about Salah because he played 90 minutes in the Champions League, and then Klopp turns around today and lets us know that Diogo Jota has got a knock. Did he kind of give any indication of how bad a knock it was, whether he was going to miss out or anything like that?
Not really, no. A bit of a plot twist this, because we were all so obsessed with Salah's chances of a start, and then it's the man who would have maybe started in his stead who's now a doubt. So Klopp did say that he hadn't actually seen the players. This is a recurring theme when Liverpool's been in action, especially on a Wednesday in the Champions League. Then he'll have what's called like a recovery day on Thursday, and then he won't have actually seen them in training until after his press conference. So it could be nothing. He could be fine for the weekend. It could be something that's going to rule him out longer term. But all we know is that it's a knock, in Klopp's words. It's the same with Tsimikas as well, who came off in Denmark in midweek. So yeah, we're in the dark really. We can pray for some sort of training ground imagery later on today, but that's as much as we know for those two. Rest of Liverpool's team news: Alisson could be back. He's due back in training today, and Klopp said if there's no reaction, then he'll feature. Oxlade-Chamberlain's very near return as well. He's been back in training for a little while, and Klopp says it's basically demanded that he starts soon or features soon. It's just whether it's this weekend or not. He'll be a substitute for the first few games anyway, so he'll probably come more into the reckoning over Christmas. And as for the rest, he's not expecting anyone else back, so we think Milner, Shaqiri, Thiago, all still going to be out, along with the longer term ones like Gomez and Van Dijk. Obviously, Milner being out is good for Salah as well as the Jota news, because on pens.
Yeah, I do. I really want to see a penalty in the Premier League because he did take one in the Champions League when Milner was on the pitch. So I'm hoping he's got them anyway, but we don't quite. It'd be good to see another one or two before we know for sure. A question for you, because a lot of people are in very similar boat. I just checked your team. You've got Jota, but you don't have Salah. Is this news now changed? Like, what was your thoughts on Salah anyway? And has this changed your mind at all?
Yeah, I was gonna have to hide behind the sofa and not buy him. I think my plan was just to roll with it and make a change elsewhere. I've got 2 free transfers, so I can do some sort of surgery. But my plan was just to keep Jota starting, especially after what happened in midweek. I think 90-minute run out for Salah. I was like a couple of hours ago. I was talking to you and David online saying I think I'm going to omit Salah from my team news prediction. I know there's compelling arguments on either side about whether he will or won't be rested. And yes, of course, he's had that period in self-isolation. But Klopp's got previous for early December rotation. I know there's different reasons why he wouldn't, all that red zone talk and all that stuff. But he has now got a wealth of options available to him to rotate. And it's the Tottenham game approaching next week. I put the doubt in my mind. But obviously with Jota a doubt, then and Minamino and Origi both started in midweek. So yeah, I've gone with Salah in my lineup, even though he is you would say he's the most at risk of a benching of that regular front three because of the fact that Mane and Firmino both were benched in Denmark. But that's good news, I think, today if you're a Salah owner, and obviously not if you're on Jota like me.
Yeah, I actually have both, so it's kind of nice because I can captain Salah without any worries, but Jota's probably not such a good pick now. But I've got a nice segue because I'm looking at your team here. I'm thinking 2 free transfers, Vardy and Jota to Salah, and potentially Callum Wilson. Oh, actually, that probably doesn't work in terms of money. But anyway, we'll segue on to Newcastle with my really bad transfer plans for you. So it looks like, well, the West Brom game is on, unless we get any more news before the game actually happens. But as expected, there's a few players missing, and we don't know who any of them are. Is that right?
That's pretty much it, yeah. So my team news lineup could be entirely wrong. Same with anybody's predicted lineup this week. Is we simply don't know not only who not only the players who are infected and self-isolating, but what the injury situation is like with the likes of St. Maximin and Fraser as well. So Bruce held his press conference this morning and said we've got a chunk of players out of the West Brom game. Didn't elaborate, said he was respecting confidentiality in that regard. Last time, I don't know if you remember, against Palace 2 weeks ago, I'd sort of sussed out that it was Hayden and Kraft who were the two unnamed players who had gone down with it because they weren't in training ground imagery. And they did miss out. Now, it still hasn't been confirmed whether they were the cases in question. So what we're hoping for and what we're running out of time for is images from Getty or Reuters on the training ground. So and they can maybe do some detective work that way, but we just simply don't know at this stage. Nobody does, apart from Bruce and obviously those inside the club. Yeah, as I said, on top of that, they had a number of players flagged through injury, so we don't know, because Bruce was very, very coy about that. He didn't want to then tell people he was out injured either. So Maximin's the main one. Lascelles had a thigh problem. He missed out against Palace, although he had been back in training, so we think he may be all right as long as he hasn't got COVID. Fraser, Dummett, Dubravka, St. Maximin, Carroll, they were all flagged. So a lot of doubt over Newcastle, and not what you want really as an owner of that fantasy assets. However, I think I've got some positive news if you do own Wilson, and that he was interviewed at the training ground in midweek, which we assume means he's all right. He's not self-isolating. Bruce said they did a load of tests on Monday and everyone came back negative who was in then. So we assume Wilson and Richie is the other one who's been spotted at the training ground doing media work, that they are probably okay. As for the rest, we just don't know.
Yeah, Wilson posted a picture on social media. I think it was Instagram on his own account where he said, "Good to be back training with the lads." So, unless there's a knock that Bruce hasn't mentioned, he looks like he's going to be okay. So I think anyone that moved early on him might be all right. My only worry is for anyone thinking about it is you just don't know who's going to be behind him at this point. But it is West Brom, so it might not be the worst time to take a risk because West Brom like conceding goals. So yeah, it'd be interesting. I guess next week we might have a bit more information simply just based on the team sheet that gets put out at the weekend. So we'll have to wait for a bit more news on that. We do have some concrete news though from Everton. So James Rodriguez, I mean, he came with not the greatest injury record. And to be fair, he's not been out for a long period of time yet, but he is missing the odd game here or there, and he's going to miss the Chelsea game as well, right?
He is, yeah. I suppose this is a bit like Wilson in terms of Calvert-Lewin, like who's going to be supplying his chances if not just Rodriguez is out, but Digne as well, and Koolman. So yeah, Rodriguez, Delph, and Koolman are the three who Ancelotti ruled out, as well as a longer-term one like Digne. So Koolman and Rodriguez could be back for Leicester in game week 13. Koolman's already back in training and he's got more of a chance. Rodriguez hasn't trained at all this week. He got a cough problem, according to Ancelotti. Fairly minor in nature, we think, and he is expected to return to training next week. Didn't specify at what point next week, but he later in the press conference he did say that we'll see where he is for the Leicester game. So he could just miss one match, but obviously for this Chelsea game, he's definitely going to be out, which would dampen your expectations of Calvert-Lewin. Not that Rodriguez has been firing all cylinders of late, but also at the same time maybe enhance Chelsea's clean sheet chances as well if they've got like one less creative spark in the midfield to worry about. So, yeah, 3 men down for this.
Yeah, I guess never write off Calvert-Lewin because he has scored without Rodriguez, but I'm in agreement. I've got Chilwell and a lot of people have Chelsea defenders. I'm feeling pretty confident now, and I'm even thinking about benching Calvert-Lewin. So I think Chelsea are just that good at the moment, and Everton aren't going to really miss these boys. So yeah, it's a shame, but it sounds like he might be back next week in terms of Rodriguez anyway. So we'll see what happens there if you're an owner or if you've got Calvert-Lewin and you're thinking about him. Man City, I loved your GIF that you posted on Twitter, or GIF is it, I think. So he says everyone's fit apart from 2 players, but he didn't mention the players, did he?
No, I haven't actually seen this all the way through yet, so it hasn't actually dropped. There was about 7 or 8, all at like 1:30, 1:15. So we were just doing this like an hour afterwards. I've just seen the quote so far, but yeah, he said that, much as what you've just said there, the quote. Now, the good news is, possibly, is that we have got 2 players flagged already for City. So it might be those 2 players he's talking about, and they are Garcia and Gundogan, who both came off in the Champions League in midweek. So those 2 players might be the injuries he's referring to. But of course, with him, you're never completely sure. The good thing is that if you won De Bruyne, is that he was rested in midweek. So the only type of injury he could have picked up would be on the training ground, because he didn't feature. And there was a whole raft of changes for that Champions League game. Mahrez did start, I saw, and Torres was playing through the middle. But Jesus was rested as well. Aguero won't be ready to start. This wasn't part of today's press conference, but Guardiola was interviewed after that midweek game and said that he wouldn't be pushing for a start in the Manchester derby. Still could be involved on the bench, I think. With the deadline being at 6:30 tonight on a Friday, then again any embargoed quotes we get from Guardiola, which might clarify those issues, are not going to land till well after the deadline's passed. So we can only assume that it's Gundogan and Garcia.
Yeah, good news for Jesus fans, I suppose. Although it is Man United, what you really want him to say is Aguero is not available for the West Brom game, so we'll have to wait and see if he says any more after that. Another team in Europe, obviously, just yesterday, Spurs. Again, they rested quite a few players, although I did notice my boy Reguilon played alongside Davies, which happened before a Burnley game at one point, and Reguilon still got rested for that one, so maybe that'll happen. But the big news is obviously Son and Kane. That's who most people are worried about. And they did come on, but they only played, 20 to 30 minutes, right? So they should be pretty safe.
Yeah. Mourinho didn't do a standalone press conference for Game Week 12. He did an interview after the Europa League game last night against Antwerp, and some embargoed quotes came out today. And he was saying that it's impossible for most players to play all the games over Christmas with so many coming up. I think they're in the League Cup still as well. But he did say that in the case of 1 or 2 unique players, then he's going to give them as much time as possible. Now, of course, he's probably referring to Kane and Son there. I think Kane's ever present, isn't he, this season? Son might have been benched once, has he? Or has he started every game? No,
I think he started every game, but he came off against Newcastle for that.
That's right.
Injury / tactical decision.
That was the one, yeah. So I think they were second half substitutes on Thursday, so we'd expect them to start. Reguilon, I suppose that's a bit slight concern. Again, 3 games coming up in a week, one of which is Liverpool in midweek. So there is an off chance of maybe Davies getting one of the next 3, whether that be Game Week 12 or 14. You'd think he'd start in 13 against Liverpool. Aurier was a slight doubt, I think. I don't think we've got any more news on that. He'd missed out against Antwerp. Could be one of them Europa League injuries, which has been a lot of from Spurs in the last 2 or 3 weeks. Seems to be every other match day in the Europa League. Mourinho rules out the likes of, it was last week, Kane and Reguilon. Before that, it was Lloris, and there's been also many players, and they've all been fine at the weekend. But obviously, Doherty will be on standby if he doesn't make it. Apart from that, I think it's just Lamela who's definitely ruled out. But Mourinho's hoping to have him back over Christmas at some point.
It could be another decent game there. Remain near the top of the league for Spurs against Palace. Let's go to Man United next. Tough game. Had a few injuries. Martial and Cavani, I think, missed the Champions League game. Are either of them back this week?
Martial is, so Solskjaer says he'll definitely play a part, whatever that may be. Cavani is sort of touch and go. He says he's back in training, but they're yet to make a decision on him. Solskjaer is someone we've come to mistrust because he's over the years he's either ruled out players or described them as serious doubts, and then they've featured. I think Cavani might be slightly different because they have got plenty of alternatives in attack. It's not like they're relying on him to spearhead the line as good as he was against Southampton. Even if he is sort of involved in the match squad, he might not necessarily be starting.
Yeah, I'm not sure he would. I think we'll go for pace up front. And Cavani, I think that's how we'll play against City.
Doesn't seem like his type of game, does it, against City? So I think other than that, I think they're pretty clean bill of health. Shaw came back in midweek, which is obviously a concern if you're a Tellez owner. But apart from that, I think they're good.
Yeah, it'd be interesting to see if Shaw gets straight back in. I don't think we're going to play a back five, but I got a feeling Tellez is probably going to lose his place. I don't think he's necessarily done that badly at all. I just think Solskjaer really likes Shaw, and obviously the only reason he lost his place is because he got injured. So I think once he's fully fit, he'll be straight back in. Okay, West Ham next. So Antonio. I feel like we're always talking about him and his injuries. He's probably not back again, right? And there was also an injury that Moyes didn't even mention that we've seen again on social media, I think with Masuaku.
That's right, yeah. So Antonio, I'll deal with that one first. He's Moyes said he's probably likely doubtful for this, which is a strange way of putting it, but I guess he's not going to risk him for this. Fredericks could be back. That was the only other injury news he mentioned. Yarmolenko's been back in training as well. But Masuaku, yeah. So this wasn't mentioned by Moyes, possibly to do the anti-Bielsa thing and not give any team out whatsoever. So Masuaku had posted an image on Instagram of him awaiting knee surgery. We know that he's had this long-standing problem before. It's kept him out of a few games. And it sounds like, or looks like, he's going under the knife. It got picked up by Football London and the Standard, but still no word from West Ham at the time of recording. Anyway, so we assume it's not just some elaborate hoax, and he's going to miss probably a substantial period of time now. So it's just what Moyes does to replace him, whether it's Johnson, Snodgrass, or Cresswell further up the flank as a wing back, and like Diop brought in a centre half, or whether he'll move to a back four. I've read a lot. I've tried to do a lot of research on this, and some West Ham fans think that Cresswell just hasn't got it in him to be a wing back now, sort of advancing in years, and he's more of a static centre half / orthodox left back who hasn't got a lot of pace. So if he does stick with the wing back system, it could be someone like Johnson coming in on his wrong side, or as I've printed in the team, he moves to a back four, which is what happened when Masuaku came off against Aston Villa. I know it was a slightly different situation because they were chasing the game and Villa had a bit of a hold on it. So in that case, it could be Benrahma coming in further up the left flank and then Cresswell moving to left back. But we'll see how he plays it.
If they go for a back four toe-to-toe against Leeds, I think that could be a really good game tonight. So it'd be interesting to see how they set up and see how it goes. Let's just move on to Leeds because as you mentioned, Bielsa is now every FPL manager anyway is now their favourite Premier League manager, I should say. And he's literally named the team for us, right? So we know exactly who's starting.
Yeah, as someone said on Twitter the other day, if everyone did that, I'll be out of a job. I think I'd probably take it as well. I'd go work someplace else, but just for the ease of so he's we know Forshaw's still out, and Llorente and Robin Koch are both out as well. Two centre halves. Shackleton and Hernandez are back, but I don't need to do any speculating on the team because it's been laid out in front of us. I'll run through it. It's Melia, Dallas, Cooper, Aylan, Alioski, Phillips, Rafinha, Rodrigo, Klitsch, Harrison, and Bamford. So there you go. Unless there's been any injuries in the intervening period on the training ground, that's your 11 for tonight.
Yeah, it looks good indeed, and I think that's going to be Ayling playing centre back, right, and Alioski left back still, and Dallas is going to go right back. So he's still going to be fairly attacking, but Ayling not so much centre back, but probably not worth worrying about if you already own. So yeah, going to be an interesting game, and hopefully he keeps that up, keeps telling us the team. Chelsea, I feel like we're talking about a lot of players, a little injury. So Pulisic was back, and then he's missed out midweek, hasn't he? But I don't know if there's been any updates, but Lampard kind of said it was an issue, but it wasn't really. It just wasn't the right time to play him. So is he back now?
I think he is. I listened to this yesterday, and he mentioned that he described it in a very weird manner. He said there was like an awareness in his hamstring, but he was on the bench in midweek, and Lampard went on to say that this wasn't an injury per se, and that he would have maybe featured if there'd been anything riding on the game against Krasnodar, because it was a dead rubber from a Chelsea perspective. So I think he was just more dampening expectations, maybe saying they're going to manage his minutes somewhat. They've got 3 games in a week coming up. I don't think Pulisic is going to start all 3 of those. He'll probably drop out in maybe the midweek one. I could see like Havertz can play on the right, Werner can play on the left. He's not flagged in FPL because those comments don't suggest he's got an injury. It's just more of an awareness of managing those long-standing issues. Like he's always seems to be always just flirting with a hamstring problem, but I think he'll start this weekend again, unless there's been any development since Thursday. And the fact that Ziyech and Hudson-Odoi are both out for 2 weeks, at least, with hamstring problems themselves, does mean they're slightly down in the wide areas. Probably nails Werner down for now as well, because he's just a bit of a utility man. He's played across all 3 positions in the front line now. He was on the right last weekend when Pulisic came on, and he's obviously played through the middle and on the left as well. So, those 2 are the only injuries we know about for Chelsea. And they've got a pretty good, clean bill of health. And it's just that sort of slight nagging doubt with Pulisic. But I've put him in my predicted 11, so I'm not
I guess the awareness, he's had so many injuries, hasn't he? I guess the awareness that any little thing, he's going to be probably slightly more worried than the average player, just because he doesn't want to be out again. So, yeah, I think his minutes will be managed quite a lot. But yeah, I think you're right. The wide men obviously missing out makes it a lot more likely that he's going to play. Let's go to Wolves next. I don't think anything major there, really, right?
Yeah, no new injuries. So nice and simple. Nuno doesn't want to put a return date on Jimenez, who was pictured back in the training ground this week. He not training, obviously. He just come to see his teammates. So that was nice to see him up on his feet. But yeah, long way off for return with a very serious injury. So it's just him and Johnny, who's another long-term absentee that we know about.
Cool. Who did I have now? Oh yeah, Leicester. Any of the defenders back anytime soon? Seems like they've had half them injured for most of the season.
Well, Rodgers' press conference is happening as we speak, and I've just seen an update from BBC Leicester Sport. So Ricardo's still a couple of weeks away. We knew about that. Maddison is fine. So he was I think he had a rumbling knee, which Rodgers described it as, and he didn't feature last night. Castagna, Sancho are training, but might miss out this weekend. And Amarty's back in training as well. So yeah, it doesn't sound too good in terms of this weekend, but it sounds like Castagna and Sancho are closing in on the return. A scan had revealed that there was no damage with Sancho. I think people thought he might have exacerbated that groin problem and be out for another few weeks and months, but he's all right by the looks of it, and he's just sort of working on his conditioning now, I think, and could be sooner rather than later when he's back in the team. But obviously Pereira's is going to be likely after Boxing Day when he's back, which again I know we mention Justin every week, but pretty much ensures he is playing for now.
He's going to get 38 starts, isn't he? He's going to be that player where, you've only got him for like 3 or 4 game weeks. Well, he's all right till game week 8. Now, game week 12, and then with game week 38, people are still having, but he won't have any clean sheets like he hasn't for the last 5 or 6. Probably not a bad time for Brighton to play them, to be fair, if they've still got a good few injuries in defence. So let's just talk about them next. So one thing that I saw was that Potter answered a question about penalty taking duties and put Gross as the number 1 now. So for anyone that's clinging on to Maupay, he's not first choice penalty taker. Do you think he's going to be back into the side this week, Maupay?
I think you'll play 2 of the 3. I think we've seen this before with Potter, where he's actually kept it very settled this season by his standards. I think he's only made like 1 or 2 changes every week, whereas before last season it was 5 or 6. We couldn't get any kind of hold on it. But this is the time where I would expect him to make changes, and given that this is it's not a free hit as such, but it's away at Leicester. And after this game, I think they've got Fulham and Sheffield United. So those are the games you think he'll be targeting.
He's done that before as well, hasn't he? He left out main players for hard games. So, maybe we'll see.
I think he did it even after lockdown when we came back. So I would even go as far as saying that I wonder if Lamptey might get a rest in one of the 3 games as well. As crucial as he is to the Brighton attack. Because, he's got previous for this, and I wouldn't be shocked to see him ramping up the alterations maybe from this weekend. But yeah, in terms of injuries, obviously Maupay came back as a substitute against Southampton, so he could come back in. Who's out? Oh, Lallana. Potter said that he's likely going to be too soon for Lallana, who I think was ruled out for 2 weeks anyway, so maybe game week 13-14. McAllister and Proper closing in on a return. It's just match fitness for them. They're over their respective problems. But I think, again, apart from that, free of injury.
Good stuff. Let's do Aston Villa next. So there was some speculation about Grealish because I think he broke rules or not necessarily. I don't want to say whether it was bad or not. Obviously, it's not great to stick by the rules, but I think he's fine, right? He returned a negative test, should be available.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, I think I tested on Monday, and he's fine. I think Smith was saying that's kind of dealt with internally now, so he doesn't want to talk about it anymore. But yeah, he's fine. Bartley, he's a culprit in chief last weekend, he's not available. He's got this hamstring problem. He's not far off a return. I think possibly could be next week, but he's not going to feature against Wolves. Neither is, by the looks of it, Keenan Davis, who's back in training, but Smith said this might come too soon. Tom Heaton, I think, is going to play for the under-23s on Friday. Again, Martin, his owner, shouldn't be worried even if he is back, because I think he's undisputed number one at the moment, unless he drops loads of clangers. And apart from that, I think it's just Engels and Gilbert might be in contention for this. Again, backup players. But the main headline for fantasy managers is Grealish should be fine. No issues reported, and Bartley is out.
Yeah, another game I'm looking forward to, actually, especially if Wolves stick to the back four. Because I think Wolves right now are a little bit of an unknown, because we're not quite sure. There's such a good defence, but back four, is it going to be as good? So we probably need to see a few more games to fully understand that. So yeah, it'd be interesting to see what Villa do to them, if anything. Let's go to Southampton. Danny Ings, is he likely to be back in the side? Surely he will be now, right? Every week.
Yeah, sounds like it's Arsenal was, without wanting to give his team away, I think he's intimating that he was. He certainly said he was ready for a start, and I think he said he was an option for the lineup this weekend. He's obviously had an extra week of training, and I watched this game on Monday. I was on duty for scout, and it was he looked just like normal. He looked absolutely sharp, closing people down. Obviously scored from the spot as well, so he's still on pens, as we would expect. And they've got absolutely no injuries whatsoever, Sarton. I can't think of a single player who's flagged. So it could be. I mean, they've had I think the most settled side in the division over the last 6-7 game weeks. So they might just be Ings in for Gineppo and then Walcott moving back to midfield, which is what happened against Brighton when Ings came on at half time.
Yeah, I think we might see a few Calvert-Lewin to Ings transfers in the next few weeks. But I mean, after this is a good game, Sheffield United, but it's worth noting for anyone that's looking to bring in Southampton players. I think they play Arsenal and Man City after this game week, so might not be the time to rush on to get into him. But yeah, I'm sure Ings will be back scoring goals more regularly than not very, very soon. I mean, he's already got one, hasn't he, with the penalty anyway. Who have we got left? Crystal Palace. Any updates there?
Yeah, a couple of little updates. Longer term ones are still out, and no new injuries. Mitchell was sent home from training today with a cold. Hopefully that's all it is. I did see an update on Ferguson as well. Apparently he was sort of near a return. So this is the other 4 million or sub 4 million Palace defender. He was on his way back from this long-standing knee problem, but I think apparently he's picked up a thigh strain in training, so he looks like he's going to be out for even longer now. I'll get that ratified, but I saw a pretty reliable reporter saying it, so I've got no reason to disbelieve it. So yeah, looks like both of Palace's bargain bin defenders aren't going to be in a starting 11 anytime soon.
Bad times. I want to see Ferguson at least once this season after all the hype pre-season. Okay, I think we've only got a few left. Again, I've only left Arsenal till towards the end because I didn't see anything from them. Is there a press conference? I guess they played Europa League, didn't they? So there might not have been one. Yeah,
I think this is what happened in the last couple of weeks, where we get the list of times through from the Premier League, and then Arteta's down for like 10:30 in the morning. But what it is I think it's just either embargoed quotes from the previous night from the Dundalk press conference, or is just a standalone interview with the Premier League. So there wasn't like an official press conference, I don't think. There was some quotes being released. He's talking about Martinelli came back, played for the under-21s. So again, match fitness is only an issue with him. David Luiz is going to be assessed, and Thomas Partey's out for a few games, which could mean anything really. It could be, with it coming thick and fast in December, it could be more than usual. But apart from that, I think they're really getting a lot of bodies back now. So Chambers and Pablo Mari played last night in the Europa League. They'd already been back in training as well. So they're getting numbers back, and it's just I think that, the flags that are remaining are on Louise Party, Kolasinac and Nelson as well. They were both flagged because they missed out on Thursday with minor problems. Wasn't even acknowledged today by Arteta, so probably nothing to worry about.
Yeah, time frames are actually really important because sometimes early in the season we'll say, well, players out for 2 weeks, but because of international breaks, it's only like one game. Whereas now you miss a week, you're potentially missing 3 games, and 2 weeks is like nearly 4 or 5. So yeah, that's definitely worth bearing in mind. What about Fulham? I don't think we've done them yet. I don't think there was anything major from them anyway. Not many people have got Fulham players left in their teams.
No, no new injuries, and then Congolo and Teti are both involved in training now, but this will probably come too soon. Teti is ahead of Congolo in terms of recovery, but nothing to report there.
Good stuff. Okay, I reckon we have got 3 teams left, and one of them usually tweets out when we're streaming. So West Brom, Sheffield United, and Burnley. So if you do West Brom and Burnley, and I'll go and check Sheffield United.
Thank you. West Brom. Townsend's obviously still out. He's going to be out till after Christmas, I think. And obviously Pereira, who was sent off last weekend. They did appeal against his red card, but they got turned down, so he's going to be missing for the next 3 games. Robson Carnew's got a recurrence of that wrist problem. He's out, and Soundfield isn't ready to return either. But apart from that, I think that's everything from a West Brom perspective. From Burnley, again, this is one that's just happened in the last hour. Dice said Barzi was going to be sort of back in and around it, but I don't think he's expecting anyone else back. So Stevens, who was the other one? I think Goodmanson possibly, and Cork. I don't think he's expecting those back for this one. But Barzi might be back in contention for a place on the bench. But nothing again. Very low down the.
It's Charlie Taylor or nothing, I think, for Burnley, for people's teams. Yeah, if he's all right, people are all right. I just had a quick look at Sheffield United, so not much. There might be more in the full press conference. If there is, obviously, we'll tweet it out. So make sure you're following us on Twitter, FF Scout. He says they've all trained this morning. So Ampadu, Ethan Ampadu, isn't it? All right, is that his first name? Yeah.
That's right.
This is why Neale usually does the talking and not me. Ender Stevens and Mousse have all taken part in training. He says we'll monitor them over the next 24 hours and hopefully they're on the coach. We'll have to see. I noticed. Someone brought it to my attention. They've been playing the last 2 weeks a £4 million defender, which I hadn't noticed. Keane Bryan. So he's been playing left centre back, I think. Do you think there's any chance he keeps his place?
No, I don't think so. I think he's just a placeholder for now. He's done all right. He hasn't done bad. It's a bit like Robinson, when he came in. It's just until Stevens and Ampadu are back, really, because obviously O'Connell's out for the season and he's not going to be back anytime soon. But Stevens had been playing as the left-sided centre half, and Ampadu filled in there, I think, for a game as well. So I think as soon as them two are back, then Brian was nowhere near the first-team picture up until this injury crisis. So I think he'll drop out soon.
That's a shame. We're always looking for the next £4 million defender. Maybe there just won't be one for the rest of this season. We'll have to wait and see. All right, we'll leave it there. Obviously, if you want to go back and check over any of the teams that we've talked about, you can just go and rewind it. Liverpool was right at the start, which is the one that I think most people are interested in. We will be back next game week for another team news, which we're going to figure out when. Because the deadline is 4:30 on Tuesday, so it's a very early deadline. Obviously, there's only a couple of games. We'll have to see if we get all the press conferences in. We'll leave it there. Make sure to hit a like on the video if you've enjoyed it. Subscribe if you're new around here as well. Neale, I'm going to let you get on, but say thanks very much for all the information as always.
Thanks, Andy. Yep, see you next week.
And good luck, everyone. We'll catch you again next week. And just really quickly, at 7:55 tonight, Gianni is doing a match day watch along for Leeds versus West Ham, and Lee from FPL Family is going to be on as well. So make sure you check that out. Otherwise, good luck, and just remember the deadline's in about 3 hours. See you later.